I'm Wayne Harris. Today I'm going to introduce Dr. Kwok, who will be discussing the emerging technology out of Hong Kong by RHT and in particular NCCO technology. Thank you.
Thank you, Wayne. Nice to meet you here.
Nice to meet you.
So how shall I start? Perhaps I'll start off with a brief introduction of myself.
Please.
And then I'll talk about the motivation for having this particular technology that is turned into an air purification system. It's okay?
Very good.
Very good. So, hello everyone. So my name is Ezra Kwok. Just to give you a bit of my background, I was trained as an engineer some years ago, and I also obtained my PhD degree in engineering. Few years later, I actually decided to go back to school, and I chose to go into medical school, and I also obtained my medical degree. In my career as an engineer, I actually worked for two oil companies, Imperial Oil, which is Esso, and also another one is Syncrude. I worked for Syncrude as a consultant, and then I came to UBC as a professor in engineering. So I've taught at UBC for 25 years already, and a couple of years ago I decided to convert my time into mostly medical practice and a little bit of teaching and some consulting. So that's a bit of my background. So I've listed some of my experiences here. In addition to me being a former professor of engineering and current adjunct professor of engineering at UBC, I'm also a medical advisor for different organizations, and one of them is WorkSafe BC. And I also am the board examiner for the professional organization for professional engineer in British Columbia. And one of the milestones that I have established is that I actually started the biomedical engineering program at UBC. So I'm the founding director for the biomedical engineering program here. So Wayne, if you have any question, feel free to stop me in.
I will, thank you.
Thank you. All right, so what I'd like to do is to introduce this unique technology, okay? In short, we call this NCCO. NCCO is an acronym for Nano-Confined Catalytic Oxidation. This is a unique technology that has already received a US patent, and it's currently owned by RHT Industries, which is a company headquartered in Hong Kong. The technology itself was actually developed at the Hong Kong University of Science and Technology. So NCCO, this particular technology has been in use for the past 14-15 years already. So it is not brand new that was developed like last year. Okay, it has been used by many companies, many facilities, many organizations already. So how is it superior than the current existing technologies that people are familiar with? Let me show you a simple table here. Okay, so you can see that on my left hand side here. So I've listed some of different components here, like things like formaldehyde, VOC, particulate matters like fine particles. You've got bacteria, ozone, and some of the other stuff. Okay, and then I've got a number of columns that actually listed some of the existing methods for air purification. For example, we've got the activated carbon, which is the most popular one that everybody is familiar with. All right. There are also other technologies like ionization, and also filtering as well. So you can see that NCCO is in column 1 here, pretty much, okay? And you can see that NCCO, this technology, can deal with all these chemicals and organisms as well, okay? Some of the other, so all the other technologies can deal with some, but not all. Currently in the market, there are actually different brands, all of them. So you can see that examples like Panasonic and Dyson. Okay, the common thread is that they all use some type of activated carbon, charcoal. Okay, plus something else. Okay. What's unique about NCCO is that it is not activated carbon. Okay, it is not charcoal. Okay, there are some clear disadvantages for using charcoal activated carbon. Okay, one of the clear disadvantages of activated carbon is that you have to replace the activated carbon frequently if you want to maintain a certain performance. All right, and activated carbon lifetime, the service life. You hear that people will say that, oh, you don't have to replace the activated carbon until a year later. Okay, the reality is that activated carbon, actually the performance drops over time. All right, and when someone installs the activated carbon based air purifier in a confined space, the active sites of activated carbon will drop. And eventually, all the active sites are saturated. Okay? So what happens is that if you are not aware, then basically the activated carbon is not really doing any filtering. Okay? So in order to make sure that the activated carbon is working, you pretty much have to replace the activated carbon every 3 to 6 months. In some cases, when the environment is very polluted, you will have to replace it every month. So the problem with activated carbon is that then what happens when you replace it? Well, when you replace it, you take it out, you throw it away. Okay, you put a new one in. So it actually generates a lot of garbage. At the same time, when you take the activated carbon out, there is what we call a secondary pollution. Okay, because when you remove it, those chemicals, those ingredients that have been trapped in activated carbon will get released. Okay, so NCCO is quite different. So this shows kind of like an overall idea of how NCCO works. Of course, you've got this pre-filter, which is standard for a lot of the air purification systems. Some can also include the static filters. Okay, in NCCO, one of the key differences is that it's got an active oxygen generator. Okay, and so NCCO would have this active oxygen that would flow together with all those contaminants through a HEPA filter. The first stage is that at this level, the active oxygen would begin to deactivate, even destroy some of the chemicals or organisms in the air. And then some of the products, the active oxygen with all those partially destroyed or partially disintegrated chemicals or active ingredients would then enter what we call the NCCO reactor. So this reactor inside, basically, you need zeolites with some transitional metals. Okay, and then all those ingredients, products passing through the HEPA filter would go into the zeolites, and inside zeolites there are a lot of nano channels. Okay, so I've got a simple schematic to illustrate this idea. Okay, so there are micro and nanopores inside all those zeolites. Okay, and of course the zeolites are treated with transitional metals. Okay, so the active oxygen basically would go in, and the zeolites, the nanochannels, will trap all those chemicals, okay, or partially disintegrated, okay, components. So the zeolites are good at trapping those things. So there are a lot of microchannels there. So one small zeolite pearl, okay. So later on, I'm going to show you that pearl. The pearl is about 3 to 5 millimeter large, but inside one zeolite rock, okay, it's got about 300 feet of nanochannels, okay. And so all those nanochannels will trap all these chemicals and ingredients, and the active oxygen will continue to destroy and disintegrate them. And at the end, the end product would be just mostly water and carbon dioxide. So that is the power of this technology called NCCO. Okay, so I'm going to show you some of the illustrations. Okay, so we've done studies, using different chemicals. Okay, including particulate matters like fine particles. Okay, you've got formaldehyde, benzene, acetone, even ammonia. Ammonia actually is quite common, especially in washrooms. Okay, go in a washroom, you can smell those ammonia pretty much. Okay, so you can see that. Okay, the performance of NCCO pretty much is like at least 95% above. Okay, so it's a very efficient and powerful technology. And the good thing about this NCCO reactor, if I go back to this slide, is that this one is kind of equivalent to active, activated carbon. Okay, activated carbon, as I mentioned earlier, you have to replace it probably every 3 to 6 months. Okay, sometimes every month. This can last. Guess how long?
I have no idea.
In a lab evaluation environment, this thing can last up to 10 years, sometimes 12 years too. You don't need to replace this thing for that long period of time. Of course, in a practical environment, we would recommend people to consider replacing it, maybe after 7 years, 8 years. Okay? So imagine if this wasn't NCCO reactor, it would be activated carbon. Okay? How many times you replace it before you start replacing this NCCO? Right? So it's a huge difference. Okay? So this is a very sustainable and very environmental friendly technology.
I have a question on that. Is the zeolite, is it a man-made product?
Zeolites are pretty much like volcanic rocks from nature. Yeah. So I'm going to show you another slide that illustrates the performance of NCCO. Now this one is not chemical. Okay, I'm showing you organisms, bacteria. Okay, fungi. Okay, so you can see, E. coli is also shown here. Okay, so sometimes these live organisms, and whether you call whether they're bacteria or fungi, they actually can flow in the air. Okay, and NCCO can still capture them, destroy them, just like NCCO destroys all the chemical pollutants. Okay, so you can see that the performance is pretty high. Like for E. coli, it's 97.92%. Okay, so it's a very, very powerful technology. Okay, and I'm going to show you a very brief video. It's 1 minute long to show you the power of cleaning the air. So here you can see that we have a machine here inside this chamber. Okay, and then we have to reduce the volume. My apologies. Okay, so you can see that there are two petri dishes. Okay, one inside the chamber, one outside the chamber. Obviously, the one inside the chamber, the air is being cleaned, regenerated by the NCCO filter. The one on the outside is exposed to the environment. After 72 hours, you can see the difference. This is petri dish inside. This is all the mold and bacteria being grown, okay, on the petri dish. This is a clear illustration of how NCCO cleans the air. Now, what about viruses? People always ask, especially when we are dealing with COVID-19, okay? The SARS CoV-2 type virus, okay? How NCCO does is that NCCO can destroy things kind of like hydrocarbon based, okay? Like petrochemical, okay? Benzene, formaldehyde, all those kind of like hydrocarbon based. Bacteria and viruses are also similar in that they are also made up of carbon, hydrogen, and different components. So that's why when NCCO can destroy bacteria and fungi, NCCO can definitely destroy viruses, including COVID-19. Thank you. So we also have the latest reports that shows that NCCO can actually destroy and deactivate coronavirus. Now, people ask us, they always ask, okay, can you tell us why you don't test your machine against COVID-19 virus? Okay. The problem is right now because the SARS-CoV-2 virus, or equivalent to COVID-19 virus, okay, it is a very deadly virus that has been controlled, that needs to be controlled when you want to do experiments. Right now, all the government agencies, okay, require that the COVID-19 testing has to be done in level 3 labs, at least. And so, no one can really take the virus out and try to test it, okay? Unless it is in a level 3 or above lab, okay? And so what people do usually would be to use something very similar, and that is the coronavirus. So coronavirus is basically the umbrella name for all the coronaviruses, okay? So COVID-19 is one of those coronaviruses, okay? All right, so so what I've shown here are some of the updates, okay, from different sources, okay. CNN back in April basically says that scientists push for acknowledgement of airborne transmission of COVID-19, pretty much. Harvard School also showed that, okay, small increase in long-term exposure to PM 2.5 particulate matter, okay, 2.5 micron, leads to a large increase in the COVID-19 death rates. That's back in April 2020, okay, last year, okay. Also, it took a while for US CDC to finally update its own guideline in September 2020. And it says that use of air purifiers to help reduce airborne germs is basically recommended, okay. Some people also ask, okay, is NCCO safe? Okay, I mean, this is a rather newer technology, put it this way. Okay, well, I can tell you that all the products, okay, have been certified to be safe, and it has gone through certification and received the ETL certification, which is an international certification including Canada and US. Any questions? Okay, thank you. All right, so the uniqueness of NCCO pretty much effectively removes germs, odor, okay? VOCs like chemicals, formaldehyde, all those things that I've listed here. And as I mentioned earlier, so the reactor lifespan, okay, of 5 to 7 years, as I said, in a controlled laboratory environment, it can last up to 10 to 12 years. In practical terms, I think, so 5 to 7 years would be reasonable. If you want to make sure that things are running well, you can replace it even 5 years. Okay, so, and then the disposal of the reactor. Now, here is also a key difference. Activated carbon acts like a magnet. It traps all the chemicals, all the germs. Activated carbon does not kill germs. Okay, some people thought that activated carbon air purifier would kill germs. No, activated carbon is almost like a magnet. It just traps all those things inside. Okay, and so when you remove that activated carbon core, there would be secondary pollution coming out. And when you throw it in the landfill, you are causing environmental pollution. You're just moving pollution from one place to another place. NCCO doesn't do that. It basically destroys, disintegrates, cleans the air, okay, regenerate the air so that it becomes fresh air. Okay, it does not cause environmental pollution. At the end, when you have to dispose the NCCO reactor, those are just zeolite rocks. Okay, and they are not dirty rocks. Okay, they don't trap contaminants. Okay. Here is another video to show how NCCO can actually, how powerful it actually removes. The VOCs. Okay. So again, it's not very long. I'm going to show you quickly. So here you can see the NCCO air purifier inside the chamber. Okay, and you've got the measurement of VOC in parts per billion. Okay, and then we inject a bit of VOC acetone. Okay, inside. Okay, and you can see that the reading jumps so high. Okay. Very high, okay? And this is, I can't even read the unit now, it's so high, okay? Okay, high. And then we turn on the NCCO air purifier. So within a reasonable time, okay, about, let's see how long, I don't even remember how long it runs for, okay? So you can see that the acetone concentration drops so quickly. Okay, right now it's almost 5 minutes. Okay, it's come back down to about 200 ppb, and then it's going to go further. Okay, so it's hard to see the fume. Okay, it's very hot. Now it's almost down to 0. Almost. Okay, there you go. Okay, within about 10 minutes, it just clears all the acetone inside the chamber. Okay, now here's another special unique feature of NCCO. Okay, we all know that in North America, okay, a lot of places have already legalized the use of marijuana. All right, two problems with marijuana. Okay, in terms of air pollution, one is the smell, the odor. Okay, people don't like it. Okay. Second is, what about all those chemicals, okay, from burning marijuana? Those things may stay in the air, okay, for a long time. So I'm going to show you this one-page summary. So we just did an experiment recently to see how powerful NCCO can to reduce the marijuana odor and also the chemicals from burning marijuana. Okay, so you can see that here's a person holding the kind of the joints that we burned. We have a room that has our NCCO air purifier here. All right, and here what I've shown is the two key ingredients. Okay, kind of. Okay, because like marijuana basically contains about several hundred different types of chemicals. There are two chemicals that people usually make reference to. One is THC. The other one is CBD, okay? So we actually measure the equivalent of THC and CBD. And you can see that the blue line basically represents the percentage reduction of those chemicals Okay, this one is 90-some percent. 90-some percent. This is also 90-some percent. The other color, okay, that is hardly visible, shows that when you don't have NCCO, this is the percentage reduction, pretty much 0. So you see how powerful NCCO is. It actually removes 90+% of chemicals from burning marijuana.
I have a question
Yep.
for you on this as well. So this is marijuana. How does it cope with, like, for people who have allergies with pollen and such like, and smoking, not just marijuana, how does it cope with the air pollution?
I can tell you that the same technology works so well with airborne allergens, whether they are from cigarette smoking, cigar, flowers, okay, or even different household products.
Pets.
All those are pets, exactly. Dog hair, cat hair. You know, there are so many examples that people share about the improvement of their allergy level after they actually use the NCCO air purifier inside their homes. So countless examples. You can tell you that. All right. And then in terms of odor reduction, okay, you can see that we have an odor scale from 1 to 5. 5 is the maximum, 1 is the minimum. Now, okay, we have 2 lines, okay. The blue line represents the use of NCCO. You can see there is an odor reduction of almost 3 points. When you do not have NCCO, of course, over time, the smell will dissipate, right? And so you can see a natural drop, okay, when you do not use NCCO air purification system. Then people ask us, well, how come it doesn't go down to 0? Well, the reality is that when you burn all those things in a confined space, those chemicals will stick to the walls, your clothes, your face, your hands. You have to wash those things in order to totally remove all those smells. All right, so that's why. Okay, so we have different products. You know, if you want to swing over here, you know, these are household products. Okay, so the handheld one, the medium size. We also have a larger size that is not shown here, but here you can see that this is a larger size. Okay, but not only household products, we also have commercial grade units. Okay, so what I've shown here are different ceiling type air purification systems. You also have a special one that is very useful, especially for North America in terms of energy saving. So this is ERV, you know, energy recovery ventilation units. Okay. So, as I mentioned before, there are different advantages of using NCCO: safety, health, and sustainability. I'm going to show you one example here. Okay, I mean there are different examples, but because of time, I'm going to just focus on a few. Okay, so this is an NCCO unit being used in the medical sector. They actually install these commercial units. Okay, it's a very simple installation. It's just up in the ceiling, and there are different facilities, okay, that have already been using the commercial units NCCO. Okay, another example, Queen Mary Hospital in Hong Kong. All right, another hospital that has already used NCCO. Again, another hospital. Now let me focus on the other health issues that people deal with. Okay, so because we work in different areas, you know, there are so many chemicals, bacteria, virus, even allergens floating around in the air. Okay, what NCCO does is that it can actually remove all these, or disinfect, or even deodorize the air. Okay, so here's one example that is shown here. You can see that this is a landfill. So what happened is that we have this HSBC bank, okay, which puts a data center, okay, next to a landfill. Okay, imagine all those workers who work inside the building but next to a landfill. So again, NCCO was able to remove all the airborne bacteria, all those unhealthy ingredients in the air, odor, smell as well, okay? So another example is that the Hong Kong subway station system, which is a very busy network, okay, also uses NCCO in all the public or washroom facilities to remove the odor problem, okay? So I'm going to just quickly run through that. Another one is another facility that has already used NCCO is the Hong Kong International Airport. All right, so you can see that NCCO units are also being installed in the washroom facilities there. Okay.
Dr. Kwok.
Yep.
So far, before COVID came and caused the pandemic in March 2020, was the main use of these items, this equipment, purely to remove odors? Was that the main focus?
The main focus is not only removed odors, but also purifies the air, because you can see that, especially in Asia, the population density is pretty high. You know, people work in very small space. The personal distance is reduced. Bacteria, virus can easily transmit from one to another person. So not only odor, but also for health reasons. But of course, when COVID-19 hits, everybody is even more aware the importance of having a clean airspace. Now, when you mention about COVID-19, okay, let me just share this information with you as well. Some people actually asked me once that, you know what, we live in North America, you know, our air quality is pretty good, right? So we've got a lot of space, right? You and I have good enough distance, right? We maintain our minimum requirement of social distancing today, okay, even, right? Why do we need that? Well, let me explain. Yes, our air actually is overall better because of all the good, you know, environmental regulations. However, our air is also full of many different ingredients, allergens, right? Chemicals, you know, think about all the household products. We try to keep things clean, right? We tend to use more chemicals in our home, in our workplace, right? And imagine how come there are many children who are developing, like, you know, airway problems, you know, coughing, you know, itchy skin, eczema, runny nose, okay, hives. Well, a lot of these are caused by allergens, okay, whether they are in the air or on the surface, all right? So what this technology can improve is really to remove or reduce all the allergen exposure, okay? So that's why, even without COVID-19, this type of technology is actually pretty useful. Now that COVID-19 has impacted all our lives around the world, okay? This technology is even more critical. Recently, there are reports already confirming that COVID-19 airborne infection is pretty high. One example I share with my patients is that, imagine, think about it, you know, we've been talking about using face mask, you know, make sure you wash your hands, don't rub your eyes, don't rub your nose. I mean, we've been talking about this for over a year. How come there's still so many infections? Of course, you know, some people don't follow the rules, you know, they still socialize, they don't maintain the social distancing. But another important part is the airborne transmission. I just had one patient who was infected with COVID-19 about 3 weeks ago. He has been extremely careful. He's got 3 kids at home. Okay, he is not going to play around. Okay, he is very religious in keeping good hygiene and good social distancing. So how come he got infected with COVID-19? At the end, he passed COVID-19 to his wife and then also to 2 of his children, unfortunately. Okay, so we went through the history. Okay, and the only thing he told me is that he actually went to Oh, I don't want to use that. Okay. He actually, because he's doing some home improvements, so he went to a large home improvement store. He spent about 2-3 hours shopping around for things and bring home. That is the only place he went to. He was wearing face mask. He was very careful with all the hand hygiene. He does not rub his eyes and nose. How come he got it? In the air, fortunately, right? So, any more questions? Not for now, right? Feel free, all right? So again, another example is Hong Kong International Finance Center also use NCCO. So again, I don't want to spend too much time on the details, but this is a very interesting example, okay? So remember, at the beginning, I showed you that there were different companies that are already marketing different air purification systems, right? Honeywell is one of those, okay? But this is the Honeywell headquarters in China. So they actually make air purification systems. Interestingly, they have poor air quality and they still use NCCO. Okay, so this is the Honeywell headquarters there. You can see one type of NCCO air purifier being installed, up in the ceiling. Okay, so this is an inline air unit. Yeah.
I have a question for you. RHT Industries, are they sole owners of this technology?
Yes.
And do they allow other manufacturers to use it?
They actually there are different manufacturers that have licensed this technology. It's a patented technology, so it can be licensed. Yeah. And there are also different facilities that have used NCCO, like a fitness center. Okay, this is a very famous one in Asia. Okay, and then sustainability. This is a very interesting example that I want to show you. Okay, so this is a Nanshan SAE factory which manufactures hard disks. You can see that there are a lot of VOCs, fine particles being produced or generated, when they manufacture hard disks. Okay, so the problem is a lot of VOCs. Okay, and it's not compliant. Okay, with the regulations, the local regulations. So what did they do? Well, first they try to improve it by using the typical technology. Here, originally they actually installed the active carbon filters, which is a common one that we all are familiar with, right? And so when you look at the dates here, so this application is done back in 2013. Okay, so you can see that in July, 2013, they actually measure before and after, the VOC concentrations. Okay, here you have before the installation is 73 milligram per cubic meter. Afterward, it dropped down to 39.8. So activated carbon can improve it by at least 50%, which is good. A few weeks later, they remeasure it. Initially was 68, afterward 65. So the reduction is only 4.7%. What happened? Again, because activated carbon, the active sites can get saturated very quickly. Really depends on the pollutant concentration, right? And then a few more weeks later, they remeasure it. Hey, lo and behold, initially 62, afterwards 79. Instead of reducing it, they actually get more. What happened? So that is an illustration of secondary pollution, when the sites are all saturated, right? So, of course, this is pretty much within a month. What can you do? Well, sure, take the activated carbon out, take that, right? Put new ones in. you probably have to replace it every 2-3 weeks. After they've installed NCCO, you can see that in September, they realized that in October, things didn't look too good. So they switched over to NCCO. September beginning, 69. Afterward, 32. Again, 50% improvements. 2 weeks later, 72 down to 35, 50% improvement. And a month later, 76, 32. Again, it maintains roughly 50% performance. You can see the sustainable benefits of having this technology. So that is actually a good illustration. So here, again, I just want to highlight that, with the powerful activated carbon technology, one really has to think about the environmental impact. Okay, but with the NCCO, things are much better. Okay, way better. It is a very green, sustainable, environmentally friendly technology. And imagine all the applications one can use. Schools, all the high density area, okay, high chemical industry, okay, shopping malls, hotel, even office, homes, okay, hospitals, okay. So this is a very powerful, useful technology that is really applicable for so many facets in life. Especially right now we are dealing with a pandemic. This technology definitely is a very useful tool to reduce infection by COVID-19.
Excellent.
Welcome. Any questions? Comments?
Yes. Restaurants, bars, is that a good application?
Yes, restaurants, definitely bars. People, areas that have high occupancy.
High occupancy,
right?
Yeah.
And limited space for good social distancing. Okay.
Yes.
And also, even with face masks, like people say that, I'm wearing my face mask. Well, my patient, he wore his face mask when he was shopping for stuff, right? So face masks help. Different grades of face masks can provide different levels of protection, but it's not guaranteed. Okay?
Yes.
So all the things that we do are trying to reduce the risk. There's no one single thing that you can do to guarantee zero infection unless you don't go out at all, right?
Exactly, yeah. Do you think there's an opportunity to reduce the amount of fresh air being brought into spaces and pulled out of spaces if you use the NCCO technology to clean the air?
Do you have an example?
I'm thinking in particular, again, washrooms.
Yep.
I'm thinking particular about heavily populated areas which need gymnasiums maybe.
Yes, yes.
Where you're not only dealing with the smells and the toxins, but also with just pure fresh air as well.
Exactly.
And the way it's been treated historically is by pulling it all out,
yes,
and replacing with new fresh air,
exactly,
which has to be treated 100%.
Yeah.
Do you think there's an opportunity to reduce that amount of fresh air and therefore reduce the fuel costs?
The example I shown earlier exactly illustrate what you just mentioned.
Yeah.
So the Hong Kong MTR system is an underground subway system. They use it in their underground washroom facilities. Think about every day how many people go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
How much ammonia has been generated. When people wash their hands, sneeze and cough inside the washroom. How much droplets in the air.
Yeah.
So the Hong Kong subway system tried to improve with all the other existing technologies. And they didn't see good benefits.
Yeah.
So as you mentioned, what one could do, to reduce pollution, to improve freshness of air, one could use air replacement, dilution, whatever you call it, right?
Yeah.
Imagine the subway system that has been built, okay? You try to drill a new pipe from ground down to 100, 200 feet below,
Yeah.
so costly. But with NCCO, the air can be regenerated from polluted air to fresh air.
Exactly. It sounds as though there's benefits to using the NCCO technology in most areas where you have high density.
Yeah,
A common area in apartment blocks,
yeah,
schools, gymnasiums,
yes,
restaurants, bars,
yeah,
anywhere where the population's quite dense,
yes,
this could be a pretty good solution.
definitely, definitely, yeah. So it's a very
Excellent.
powerful technology. And as I said, the good thing about NCCO is that the core, the NCCO reactor, does not need to be replaced every few months. Okay. Probably 7 years, 5 to 7 years, up to, as I said, 10 to 12 years in a laboratory setting. Of course, that people don't maintain the unit, then probably that unit won't run well for a long time. But when the users replace the HEPA filters, clean the unit regularly, you can have the unit lasting for a long time.
Yeah, yeah. On a much smaller scale, I just put one of these NCCO reactors next to my cat's litter tray.
Wow.
So
So, what's your feedback?
the feedback is it's pretty good.
Pretty good, eh?
Absolutely, yeah, yeah.
Wayne, come out here. Let's see your face again. So you put one next to your.
I did. We have 2 kittens, and the smell of the litter tray was not very attractive. So
Right.
I decided to take one of these units home, one of these,
Yeah.
and put it next to the litter tray. Now there's no smell. I just put it on low speed, 24 hours a day. The cats can do whatever they want to do, and there's no
Excellent.
disruption to anybody else. So that alone is worth it for me.
Yes.
That's worth the technology. So thank you
great.
to RHT.
Wonderful, wonderful. There are so many stories, like, patients come and tell me, how good they feel after they use the NCCO. I have parents telling me that before using this type of technology, they would use different other air purifiers, okay, from different brands. I don't want to mention those names.
Yeah,
Okay?
of course.
And they would say that, they don't find air purifiers work. And so when they were first introduced to this, they were skeptical about this. Okay.
Yeah.
After they've used it, they realize that those things really work. Their kids, less runny nose, less nasal congestion. Now, I'm not saying that these are pure. No, these are not. Okay, these will only reduce. Okay, it cannot
Sure.
100% eliminate. Okay,
Exactly.
so, but the reduction is already sufficient for people to feel better quality of life. That's the key.
And there's so many different applications where I think it could be beneficial. We talked about my cat litter
Yeah.
in the most basic form,
Yes.
all the way through to capturing and destroying viruses,
Yes.
and anywhere in between.
Exactly.
So Dr. Kwok, I want to thank you for that today. That's very informative.
Thank you.
And,
My pleasure.
and I'm going to go away from here more informed than I was when I came.
Great.
Thank
Thank
you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for
And
your
thanks for having me to introduce this technology to you and to all your friends.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.